it was limited to three things only: the right to vote, the right to use public accommodations, and the right to send your child to school of your choice. It had nothing to do with the North, fundamentally. It had only to do with the South, and it did not address itself in any way to the economic and social problems of black people. That is the reason it's such a different movement than we have today.
Is that why it succeeded? Because
it succeeded because its objectives were very concrete and exceedingly limited. But when you get into the question of full employment, hospital care, the nature of work, medical care, then you are no longer talking about civil rights.
Even so, shouldn't it have enormous lessons for us because it was successful?
No, I don't think any of the lessons of that period are applicable to now.
You just destroyed my show.
Well, I don't think so. Well, I think there are some lessons if we start where I start. And the first lesson is don't try to repeat what you've done because we're in a different period. That's the first lesson. Second lesson is that protest is no substitute for the ballot box, which we have now. When we didn't have the ballot box, protest was the logical way. Once you have the ballot box, protest is useless. And the fact is you cannot get blacks into the ballot box. A third of the blacks who can vote go to vote. That's our problem.
Isn't it critically important for people to understand, though, that the movement was not just leaders, but it was individuals?
Oh yes, it was that's the reason we are not succeeding now. We got hundreds of thousands of people voting with their feet. Now we cannot get them to use their feet to go to the ballot box. And therefore there is not the involvement of hundreds of thousands of people today. We are depending on rhetoric and a few people in the Congress to solve our problems for us. Well, I think it was sparked largely because, as I say, on the one hand you had this frustration building up for 9 years or 10 years on the part of these veterans who had come home. And on the second hand, you had Rosa Parks armed with a 1954 decision. And we had never had anybody who sat in the front of the bus before who could say to the bus driver, "You are breaking the law. The Supreme Court has decreed." And always before they said, "We were breaking the law." That made a totally different psychological atmosphere.